makes it so complicated is that it's not so clear-cut. In slavery, you knew what you were fighting for. You were fighting for the end of slavery. It was so clear and in some ways so easy to define. But now we don't have that. We don't have slavery anymore. We also now, in the last 30 years, don't have legalized discrimination. But the stuff is much more subtle now. It's much more subtle. Someone doesn't get a job, but they're not told it's because they're black, but it is. And yet you can't prove it, or it's difficult to get there. It's difficult to talk about the vestiges of 300 years of the separation between the races, and to try to overcome that, and to try to deal with the kind of conflicts that come up when someone tries to develop an affirmative action plan and they're labeled reverse racist. You put somebody in a race and you give somebody a 3-mile lead, and then you let the other person go and start the race, and then you say, okay, things are equal now. So what are you squawking about? Those things are difficult. It's difficult to talk about the racism that continues to empower segregation, voluntary segregation in housing, that makes people run, that makes people, a white woman clutch her purse when I get on an elevator with her because she's afraid that I'm going to beat her up or something. That those things are just much more difficult to deal with than ending slavery. And so I don't know, I mean, I think the hope is that somehow blacks can give up their victimization, and that whites will actually view black people as equal human beings, and they will judge people by, as King talked about, as by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. That's kind of the hope, but that's a very ambitious goal. In some ways, much more ambitious. We're really learning much more ambitious than the other stuff was earlier. And some of us, I was involved in the civil rights movement, and some of us were naive enough to think that if some of these laws were passed, that would do it. And now we're realizing that we're just starting. Passing those laws in the 1960s was just the beginning for us. And I think we got a difficult road ahead.